Hi, it's Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style, coming to answer your colour and style question. I struggle with finding clothes as there is so much inconsistent sizing between stores. This is totally true. The reason is there is no standard sizing. I was told a story that back in Australia anyway, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I imagine it's kind of fairly similar. But back in I think it was, something like September 1969, the garment manufacturers of Australia went to Australian Women's Weekly and said, hey, we want to, update our standard sizing because the last time we did sizing was pre the Second World War and people have got a lot, we've got bigger since then. We've got better nutrition. People have got larger. The sizing isn't working anymore. And so they asked the Women of Australia to send in their measurements. And they gave them some instructions, bust, waist, hips, shoulders, all those sorts of things. But they told them to take the measurements over their foundation garments. Now, back in 1969, for many people, this included a girdle. So that was already altering the measurement. And then they got the measurements in and they did this new sizing standard and then they discovered that it still didn't fit. And this is because the women lied about their measurements. They, added some to their busts and they took off some from their waist. And they might have taken off some from their hips. So this is the thing because they didn't send their real measurements in. And so therefore, they kind of threw it all out. And look, and there is a bit of politics in sizing as well, that some brands like to size smaller because they don't want larger people in their clothes. Other brands like to size larger. So it really can depend. And this is true where sizing also can relate to whoever is their fit model and her body shape. So if you've got someone that the designer uses to try all the clothes on, so when they're kind of designing the clothes, you'll often find that if you have a fit model who is, say, curvier, then the brand will be curvier and therefore the measurements will be different than someone who is straighter up and down. So some brands are more straight up and down, some are curvier. So that's going to influence those measurements as well. Now, as much as it's really annoying to go, I'm not a size 10 in every single brand across the world or whatever size you might be, the fact is that women's bodies are so different from each other. We have breasts or, larger breasts, smaller breasts, medium breasts, larger arms, smaller arms, larger stomachs, smaller stomachs, larger hips, smaller hips, and we have booty out the back, we have booty out the side, we have the variety is we have broader backs and shoulders, we have narrower shoulders and backs. There is such a variety of body shapes in women. And if sizing was incredibly standard, it would be very hard for most of us to get dressed because we are just not standard people. We are not standard human beings. And so therefore we need variety. So I know it's frustrating. The thing to do is to look at the measurements they give you to say this is the, waist measurement for our size, this or that. If you are buying online. Otherwise, I just say if you're going into a store, take multiple sizes into the change room. Don't worry about the size. Just try them on and find the best size for you. And this is where sometimes when you get to know different brands, you'll find in this brand, I'm a this size. In another brand, I'm a different size. And it can depend on the size, like the style of the garment. For a lot of oversized garments, you can go down, 2 sizes and it's still going to fit you quite, well. So this also depends on that style of the garment. Also, what is the fabric made of? The more stretch in a fabric, the more likely you are that the size is a little bit less important, that you can, fit into different sizes than something that is truly woven and much more structured and stiffer. So as much as I know you are frustrated by the inconsistency between sizing, as much as this is really annoying and I understand it is, it also means that there is something out there for everybody. And if you really hate it, if this is where, making your own clothes or going to a dressmaker, having your measurements taken and having them make everything for you, that's going to be completely consistent. But I know it is frustrating. And the reality is a lot of manufacturers are trying to fit as many bodies into a garment as possible rather than necessarily flattering them. So it is one of those things. I look at the measurements. If you're buying online, also read the reviews, because people will talk about this size is large, this size is small. So you'll often get really good information when you read reviews online as well about how some manufacturers will cut and size their clothes. But also too, so I know I've been into stores where I've thought, oh, this looks like it's going to be great. Like on the hanger, I go, it should work for me. And then I get into the change room and there's something about how they've cut the shoulders or the armholes or the waist where you go, this is not cut for my shape. So even though it technically should work, it doesn't. And it can just be to do with, just little tweaks in how they cut things. So I know it's frustrating. Sadly, there is no solution unless we are just all clones of each other, which would be incredibly boring.